Before we move on in Premiere, the next chapter deals with something called transitions. And just to give you a definition of what a transition is, it is anytime you put two video clips together, when you have butt ends in there together, and you kind of want to give the viewer a different feel from going from one clip to the other, you would tend to use a transition there. And transition is just a graphical effect that Premiere puts into the video clip to allow you to make that a smoother piece to go from clip to clip. I do want to caution you, though, because I think most people, when they start out, generally use transitions a ton. And if you want to tip your cap and say, I'm an amateur filmmaker here, use a lot of transitions in it. And Premiere the package comes with over 80 some odd transitions in it. Don't overuse them. I would just, again, caution you on that, because if anybody were to look at your video after you loaded it up with every transition possible, it basically ends up just distracting the viewer. Probably not a good idea. So tip number one, make sure transitions are only used when there's a purpose and not just because it's a cool looking thing that you can prove to your family that you can make a cool video. Look to current video trends to see how often transitions are used. Watch a newscast. Go to the movies, and what you're going to find, quite honestly, is that there aren't many people using a ton of transitions. If they do use a transition, they have a definitive look that they're looking for in terms of why they're using it. When using a transition on every clip, it's good practice to use the same transition on all clips. There might be a case where you may want transitions in between each and every one of your video clips. If that is the case, and you've got a good reason for doing that, I would encourage you to use the same transition on all. Again, the goal is to make sure the viewer isn't distracted by these transitions. Last tip, transitions can add visual interest in any storyline. We're going to cover some different types of transitions in the next couple of slides, and I'll tell you why they're important. I'll actually even show you the video clips as to what the transition does for those clips. So let's go. Here we go. 5 transitions you should know about. Cuts. You might sit there and say, after getting done our first cuts only video, you might go, how is a cut a transition? Well, if you think of the definition, a cut isn't really a transition at all, but it's basically, it does change the shot, though. You're going from one shot to the next, and there's what you're going to find when you do watch those news clips and movies and TV shows and all of those things. The cuts are pretty much a lot of what movie makers are doing right now between transitions. It just dramatically, boom, it brings you from one scene to the next. So the most widely used transitions for action sequences are the cuts. They require multiple camera angles, and I've got this this little video here, and I'll briefly go through it here. Let me fast forward this here. You don't need the whole intro. Tips and tricks. Woohoo!
Hi, I'm Tom Skronsky. Cutting video together for action.
You see all the cuts that are happening.
Type of genre. Understanding these basic fundamentals.
Boom! Every time it shifts. Believe it or not, it's a lot harder than it looks. So he's basically creating an action video here and using cuts to be able to do that. So he goes through and shows you. But if you go back through that video clip, you'll see cut, 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 cut. You get the picture. So that one's, I put it as number one because it is by far the most popular transition that you could actually use. Don't lose sight of that. Second one, dissolves. This is probably the next most popular thing. It's created when one scene dissolves into the other behind it. Sometimes they're called fades in some cases. Signifies a major change in scenery, possibly showing a cutaway of a building in your favorite sitcom. So the idea would be the first scene of the sitcom is somebody's house, and then the dissolve from the house goes into the house, where basically that would signify a change of scenery from the outside of the house to the inside of the house. If you watch the beginning of the Full House intro here, you got to hear we'll turn this. You got to hear the theme song. So you see all the dissolves are dissolving one scene into another. So you got the bridge, gives you an idea of where it is, where the show is taking place, and then you've got all these dissolves that go from scene to scene. From the park to, and then they move in to single shots too as well. Nice looking mullet right there, Bob Saget. How about that? So you get that idea right there. Next one. We will move into the fades. Very similar to dissolves. But in this particular case, I chose to make the example a little more detailed. Fades are created when a scene is slowly shown through a color, desired effect. Most fades are either done with black or white. Not sure if you ever saw this show, 6 Feet Under. Here's the intro, and what I want you to do is to see how they use. You're going to see the dissolve idea from number 2, but I want you to see how they use the colors black and white in terms of fading, from beginning to beginning. So it's very eerie opening sequence, and I guess the show was pretty eerie to begin with. Anything called 6 Feet Under. Kind of freaky music too. See the fade to black there. Another fade through black. Very dark feeling. I don't want to go to the very end because it goes through a bunch of fades here, but then at the very end, it uses a fade to white, which is becoming quite popular these days, that fade to white idea. Gives you that little look. Long beginning. You got names there. Okay, so there's your fade to white right there. And then you'll see it all white out in the end. There you go, fade to white. So that's a very dynamic example of fades and how those are used. The fourth one, the cut-ins or cutaways, created by drawing the viewer's attention either into a smaller part of the main scene, which is a cut-in, or away from the main scene, showing a completely different scene, which is a cutaway. Allows for either more detail on a cut-in or a change of focus for a cutaway. This is kind of a crazy video example. Just bear with me here, but here's a guy who talks about...
What's the difference between
here we go.
shots and cutaway shots? Hi, my name is Adrian Lee from videolane.com, and in this video I'll be explaining two of the most
very quick video here, so pay
for
attention.
making your video look more professional. These techniques are known as cut-ins and cutaways. A cut-in is a close-up shot of something visible in the main scene. What you're looking at now is the main scene. This is a
there you go, cuts into the tablet.
So
that's a cut-in.
A cutaway shot is a shot away from the main scene. This is the main scene, and this is the cutaway shot. Capture as many cut-in shots and cutaway shots as you can. And
then he goes on to tell you why cut-ins and cutaways are important. And again, all focusing on giving the viewer a different feel for the movie. And the last one, this is the fun one, the wipe transition. If you are a big Star Wars fan, you'll recognize this right away. This effect is created when one scene is moved out of the way by another scene, either above it or off to the side. A wipe always signifies a major change in scenery or a definitive shift in the storyline. There you go. Here's a Star Wars example. Sorry about the audio you're going to catch on this. You're going to get a little wipe out. I'm actually going to turn that down. And you'll notice the fades as they go through. And the biggest thing you should probably look at here is every time they wipe away, it's a completely different scene. And you need to make sure that you pay attention to those things, because every wipe, either it's down, across, or around, or George Lucas was the first one kind of creatively to use the there's a different one. The the wipes. This was actually the Star Wars 3, which was a newer movie, but the original Star Wars was accredited with being the first movie to really to do those wipes and actually have a real mission behind it. So, all right, let me we'll slow this one down here, and we'll go back, and that's it. We'll come back. We're actually going to work within Premiere, and we're going to create some transitions on the video clips that we worked on, that cuts only video in the last unit. So should be fun.